So, as you know, Pearl, it's the 20th anniversary for the RCSI Bahrain, which is a fantastic opportunity to really showcase the university. And so what we want to do today more than anything else is just talk about research and its impact that we've had in Bahrain over that period of time. As you know, I'm Stephen Atkin. I'm head of the School of Postgraduate Studies and Research. And of course, you're incredibly important because you are the Research Regulatory Affairs Manager for the Clinical Trials Unit here at RCSI Bahrain. So, Pearl, what does a Research Regulatory Affairs Manager do?
Well, as a Research Regulatory Affairs Manager, I make sure that the clinical trials are conducted in precise manner, abiding to the GCP guidelines, or making sure that the patient's integrity and confidentiality is in place. We go by all the ethical approvals and making sure that when we conduct a clinical trial, it abides to all the rules and regulations. So basically, a governance of the clinical trials unit.
But in addition to that, you actually run the clinical trials unit, which is absolutely fantastic, the forward face to the pharma industry. Now, you're Bahraini. So looking at what RCSI does, what impact do you think the university has on the kind of landscape of research here in Bahrain?
RCSI has already established its base in the academic field and in research. But over the past 4 years, I would say when we established our clinical trial unit in 2020, they have established a state-of-the-art facility to facilitate not only bioscience research, but also clinical trials unit. And having established the clinical trial unit, we have recruited multiple alumni doctors from RCSI, medical doctors, to participate in clinical trials. So we train them on how to plan, coordinate, and execute clinical trials. Now, this has added high importance into their CVs and into their applications for the residency programs, which has also secured jobs for them, not only in the GCC, but abroad. So it gives them a recognition, if you can say. We train them, we train even the doctors on how to conduct clinical trials as well. And having said that, it has brought a lot of international value to RCSI because now RCSI is recognized as conducting clinical trials, which is a great thing because we also produce significant findings, and bringing us up there on the map has has made people realize, or the investors realize, that we can conduct clinical trials. Why not Bahrain, you know? So it has brought a huge economical value to Bahrain as well, in terms of investors, CRO companies, pharmaceutical companies, research sponsors. They all want to know what we can do and what we have done as well.
And I was just actually reflecting on some of the clinical trials that you've actually done. And I was just thinking of the latest one, for example, with Pfizer. It was really quite large. We had 3 CRCs, we had 10 CRAs, we had a statistician, there was myself as well. So when you think about it, there's around 15 people on one clinical trial that we could actually employ and actually finish the clinical trial within the time frame that the company wanted.
Yes, and we actually delivered in a shorter span that they actually requested for. And we were looking at the database that Bahrain has, and we're looking over 15,000 patients. They wanted 15,000 patients, and we were screening a large population as well. And to be able to deliver that and having the resources was a great success for our team as well. So apart from Pfizer, we have also worked with previously Novo Nordisk company as well. So yes, we do employ a lot of Bahraini population, and also I think it's quite essential to give back to the country, so that these are the pioneers that will basically move forward and, you know, enhance what is required.
Absolutely. It increases the skill set here in Bahrain,
that's true.
kind of globally. So actually following on to what you've just said. So can you tell us about the different research initiatives that are going on just at this precise moment?
Okay, so currently we are working with Pfizer. They were interested in the long COVID symptoms, which we have completed, and now we've sent off to the statistician to analyze the data. And now currently we're going to be working on basically the adverse events, or what are the effects of a Paxlovid drug, which is now being used in the primary health care. Apart from that, we have finished numerous studies in type 1 diabetes. We had recently, actually last year, our first Fulbright scholar. She worked on 2 projects in our department, one involving PCOS patients. So the projects that we are undergoing are on various type of projects in different fields as well, because that is quite essential. And currently we're also going to be starting a project with a hypoglycemic project with RMS Hospital. And this is important. RCSI in the past, I would say 3 to 4 years, has collaborated with different tertiary hospitals in Bahrain. So it makes it easy for us to analyze the data, collect the data, and produce what is required.
Absolutely.
And so when anyone approaches us, like we are being approached right currently by a CRO company in Dubai, and they ask us questions, do you have this data? It is very easy for us to get in touch with our collaborators and say, do we have this data and can we produce it? Yeah.
And it's true to say that because we've got research memorandum of understanding with the Royal Medical Services, primary health care, the government
hospitals as well.
And as well as the private hospitals.
Private hospitals as well.
It gives us absolute kind of access to the entire Bahraini population.
Yes.
Depending on what clinical trials. But of course, the other things that you do and you have done is not just clinical trials, but the clinical research. We've done some really first-class clinical research here, engaging the clinical doctors across the KHUH, for example. And in addition, which is part of the remit, is that we've got the biomolecular scientists who are there to receive tissue and blood and do work as well, which complements the clinical research, which is actually undertaken.
Yeah, and I must add as well, when we initially started, not everyone understood what clinical trials are. Everyone knows what research is, but over the past few years, because of our training and getting involved with the doctors, they are all very interested in conducting, and they're actually amazed that this can be done over here. We offer the GCP course, which is the Good Clinical Practice course, to our staff, to our students, and also to the clinical research team, whether it's at the hospital or anywhere else. And this gives them a brief understanding of what is essential and how we can go further in conducting trials.
And in fact, talking of the GCP course, we're now actually planning to roll that out to all of Bahrain.
Exactly.
And wider as well.
Yeah.
And so we're going to have it in both in English, which it is at the moment, but also with an Arabic translation to aid understanding. And I think that will really start a showcase of what Bahrain can actually do. Yeah,
because it is quite essential. It's quite important for them to understand. And I think our course is very simple to understand, because the previous courses that they have conducted does not really cater to their understanding. It's more on a broad spectrum, but we kind of condense it down and make them know what needs to be done and what should be done and how it should be done, basically.
So what questions do you think I should be answering to you?
Okay, so the first question, what is the main goal of the university's research efforts?
Well, that's a very, very...
It's a big question.
It's a big question. It's a great question. I mean, fundamentally, we really want to address the main healthcare issues here in the Kingdom of Bahrain. And here in the Kingdom of Bahrain, there's a massive problem with diabetes, obesity, metabolic syndrome. For women, polycystic ovary syndrome, which is the most common endocrine problem in women, which causes infertility, which is a big, big problem here in the Middle East. And so our research is really focused on the understanding of that, not only on the kind of basic understanding of what's going on, but also of this new treatment kind of paradigms that we can actually implement. So that really is the ultimate focus. We've got a small focus in cancer. We can never compete massively in cancer. We're too small. But we do have some very small niche and novel areas that we're looking at that will potentially make a difference without any doubt at all. And the second area and you've covered it very nicely, is that we're very much interested in developing more clinical trials, working with pharma. And why? Well, for two reasons. First of all, it brings an income to the kingdom. But secondly, it recognizes RCSI Bahrain internationally as a place where a high-profile pharma company can come in, do their clinical trial, and recognized to the right level of standard for undertaking that clinical trial. And that's absolutely critical for the esteem of RCSI Bahrain and also for the country as well.
Yeah. So the next question, how do you foster international research collaborations?
That is a really hard question. And it is
I'm glad you had it.
And the reason it's a hard question is because, okay, it's a chicken and egg situation. To forge really good international collaborations, you need to be known internationally in the first place. So how do you become international in the first place is by having international collaborations. So the first thing I would really say is that to actually build those collaborations, often you just have to be open. People really like to help. It's in people's nature to help, and especially if it's to their benefit. So for example, if we've got clinical material, we've got a great idea, but we can't analyze it, we could go to somebody else who could analyze it. And a really good example of that is the collaboration that we've got with Stellenbosch University down in South Africa. They're a world-class university in steroid biology who can answer steroid questions, but we've actually got the questions and we've got the material, and it works beautifully. So that's the first thing, to be open, to take opportunities, and often some of those opportunities aren't going to go anywhere. But there are some fundamental kind of bases that we need to actually understand. The first is that it's better to under-promise and over-deliver, without any doubt at all. Don't say that you can do something and you don't. The second, it's rather like, kind of gardening, and that you need to tend that garden. You need to have regular contact with your collaborator. And that means if they ask you a question, you respond straight away. There's no delay, because I've seen in the past how some international collaborations have actually just fallen apart because one party has thought the other party wasn't interested. And so really it's about profile, it's about marketing, but it's also about excellence. If we've got excellence, then people will want to work with us. So, I mean, obviously what we do is postgraduate research, and that's what we're very good at, and we've been very successful with some very high-profile publications. We've brought money into RCSI, which has never been done before. But of course, one thing that we have to focus on here are the students. And, how to really bring students on for them to understand research. So how do you think we could best do that?
So for the undergraduate students, we have worked previously with them, and we are currently actually working with them. We get them involved during their research summer school. We guide them on first taking the GCP course, and the research integrity course is just quite great because it gives you a split of different types of research, and we get them involved in our clinical trials as well. So they have in the past worked with us, and they can, in the end of the day, even if it doesn't mean that they have completed the entire trial, they can report onto it. They can write something about it, and they have found that beneficial for them as well in their when they have graduated and moved on for different careers. And surprising enough, what I think is quite amazing is, yes, they are undergraduate doctors, but I feel like the new undergraduate doctors that graduate from RCSI also have a different perspective. It's not just medical, it can be research as well, which I find quite amazing, because there are a lot of students that come to me and they're like, when I'm back in the UK or where I'm here, I don't mind doing 2 years service in research because that helps me a lot. And I think that's me giving back to the community as well. And that's what research is all about, right? Improving the healthcare of the patients, improving the healthcare, the best treatment that we can provide for the Bahraini population as well. So yeah, we do get a lot of undergraduate students involved in the clinical trials, and different researchers as well, bioscience.
So the actual background to that is quite interesting, and the reason is because there's an awful lot of work that actually goes into trying to establish the students as an appreciation of research. So we've got Dr. Bindu Nair at the library, we've got all the courses, they can learn about research, formulating the question, undertaking the research, the statistical analysis, the actual writing the papers, and it's all there in the library. And then they take that and then they go to Dr. Mikey Cullen, our undergraduate research director, with the kind of research competitions that we've got for writing review papers, the research summer school, you're quite right. And also the handshake that we've now got. We've got a platform where the faculty put their projects on, and the students then go and sign up for it. So that there's a handshake between the faculty and the students to allow this to occur. So it gives our students, I think, a much greater opportunity to do research and in better depth. And in fact, that's reflected in the student publications. And some of them are very high impact factor journals, which is absolutely fantastic.
We had multiple undergraduate students working with us during the COVID trials as well. They were wanting to volunteer, not because in the end of the day they get a publication, but they felt like it was their duty to give back. And the support system in RCSI for the undergraduate students is great.
And it just reflects the professionalism, and it's they make us proud.
Yes, they do. They do, definitely, wherever they go.
That's very true.
Yeah.
So we have an envelope in front of us, and well, I don't know what's in front of this. Oh my goodness!
Surprise! Okay, so I was awarded the Research Excellency Award, which was a surprise to me because I didn't know that was coming. But I was extremely grateful because when I started RCSI, I started with a purpose to make a difference. And when we started, we were like, okay, we're going to start the clinical trials unit. Let's start with the baby project, which was the DATES trial. We finished it, we published it. But three months, everything is prepared, and COVID hit. And so when COVID hit, I was very disappointed, obviously, because it's COVID, but also that I worked so hard for this project. But in fact, I think working in the COVID trials was one of my best experiences because I learned so much. And it was a time for me as a Bahraini to give back to my country. And being there and coordinating with the doctors who were working so many hours and making sure that they have what is needed to conduct the trial was quite essential. It even meant, staying up till like 3, 4, picking up your calls because we needed to recruit the participant, and to be able to be recognized for that meant a lot to me. Yeah. So this is a great day, a great achievement for me.
It was well deserved.
Thank you so much.
So this particular photograph is a very interesting photograph indeed. And the reason is because this was part of the research conference that we did. And it was under the patronage of Sheikh Mohammed Al Khalifa, the chairman of the Supreme Council of Health, who was utterly delightful and supportive. And he was just so interested, and he kept stopping, and the researchers were there, and it was just absolutely amazing.
They felt very important. Yeah.
No, I mean, they did feel really important indeed, which is fantastic. And so it was a win-win for everyone. It was high profile for the university, for RCSI. The students felt valued. The staff felt valued. And what more can you ask?
We're always valued at RCSI.
This is true. I mean, this is the RCSI Bahrain family.
Yes, it is. Second home.